This is Boxing Tickets NI. We're here at the Devenish Complex for Hammer Boxing's Showdown. Today we're joined with a new and improved Ian Gaughran. You are a completely changed man.
Yeah, a few quid off. 12 kilos.
12 kilos.
And a new haircut.
What's changed for you? Obviously the fact that, I guess you probably have to look your best sometimes and you're representing quite a lot of fighters. What's changed in your mentality where you're going, I just need to lose a bit of weight?
It was before Christmas. I got up to about 91 kilos and just wasn't happy with it. 43 now, and I was just kind of thinking, nah, not having this anymore. Carrying a little bit, clothes weren't fitting, so I said, fuck this. Lose a bit of weight, get into shape. And like you say, the lads are all looking good, so I suppose it's nice to be in shape and you're representing them. So,
are you finding a problem now that you're losing that much weight that you need to buy smaller clothes, so it's costing you a fortune out that way as well?
Absolutely, and even the clothes that I bought around just after Christmas, they now need to be changed. So even these fucking things are hanging up, and they're only a couple of weeks old. So yeah, 12 kilos down, and I'll probably take one or two more off, and that'll be it. But it's not really coming off as fast as I had come off.
You're looking well for it now. Very busy night for you tonight. Obviously, you're probably your busiest night as a manager so far. You had 5 fighters on Paddy's card. What a crazy roller coaster of emotions for you tonight.
Yeah, and it was a crazy roller coaster of a week, to be honest. The last few days have just been insane, and credit to Paddy for dealing with it and the way he's dealt with it. He takes everything in stride and kept everything really calm. There was 3 lads coming over on flights yesterday morning for yesterday's weigh-in. The flight got cancelled early in the morning. They were put on a different flight, that was cancelled. They got put up overnight for a flight then 7:30 this morning. That flight got cancelled. Eventually they got moved, I think, from Leeds to Liverpool, or Leeds to Manchester to Liverpool, and the boys got in, the opponents got in about 5:30 this afternoon, weighed in, and here we are. So yeah, from the crazy roller coaster of a week to the build up of, obviously as you say, having 5 on one show, that's the most I've done. But Paddy was great and he made it pretty easy, aside from the little hiccups we had over the last couple of days. And 5 wins out of 5, some good tests, 2 good debuts. Matty stepped up as well. Really successful night, and obviously I'm delighted.
I haven't, I guess, spoke to you obviously since the Crocker Donovan card. Obviously, really obviously beat Jared and sort of settled that score obviously after the draw last time. It's been a busy spell for you, I guess, Belfast bound, and there's a lot more coming up. You've Graham McCormack, obviously the British Boxing Celtic title fight. You've Dave Ryan and a British Boxing Celtic title fight. It just keeps going.
Yeah, Myles Casey and a BOI Celtic next week, and Cian Reddy's on the show as well. So yeah, it's a busy period. Tonight was obviously these 2 weeks, tonight and next Saturday, between them 2 shows, we had 7 boys out. So obviously looking forward to Myles taking on Paul for the BOI Celtic. It's where Myles wants to be, and Cian stepping up to 6 against a pretty live opponent, Padraig, 4-4, who comes and has a right go. So this is a lovely little step up for Cian, and obviously we're extremely looking forward to Myles taking on Paul for the BOI Celtic. I think a lot of people are writing Myles off. They think this is just turn up and win for Paul, but Myles has put the hard work in. He's done a lot of sparring, a lot of training. Did some good sparring with Rudy this week to finish off camp, 2 good spars. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Myles can bring. This is what he wanted. He said, I don't want to be fighting journeyman anymore, get me proper fights. So this is what we've done, and I think he'll shock a few people.
You get into another sort of conundrum, obviously, with some of your fighters. Obviously, you had Rudy and Kerr obviously fought before. Rudy's the current Irish champion. Myles obviously fights Paul Lunan for the Celtic title, and then you have Matty there as well. You're sort of nearly going to the conundrum again where you may potentially have 2 of your fighters pairing off again. You thought you were maybe past that stage, and it looks like it's coming back again.
Do you know what? I knew when Myles signed on, Conor was already there and Rudy was already there. I knew when Myles signed on and Matty signed on that this could have gone around in a little bit of a circle. So obviously if Myles wins next week, it puts him in line to challenge Rudy. Matty's already done his 8 rounds. He was really impressive there tonight. I know there's been an awful lot of talk on social media about Matty and Rudy. I think that's one that can build. They're both Northern Irish. They can both fight for something decent, Commonwealth kind of side, maybe a Commonwealth silver later on in the year. I know there's big bills potentially coming up. It's not what I'm in a rush for. But if the title is right, the show is right, and the money is right, then we'll sit down with both of the lads. I'm not massively into, as you know, them 2 fights with Rudy and Conor, they were awful. And it's terrible that one has to lose and you're nearly the first place you go is to console. So I'm not in a mad rush to do it, but like you say, they seem to be kind of dovetailing towards each other and ended up on this collision course. So we'll see how things go. I'll talk to Matty on Monday. He's going out tonight. I'll let him have his hangover tomorrow. Talk to him on Monday. Terry's here with Tio's team this evening, so we've had a chat. And I'll talk with Paddy, talk with Jamie, talk with Jay, and see what the lay of the land is. And
I guess it all depends on sort of what happens sort of next week. Like Matty said to me earlier on in an interview, everybody's sort of talking about the potential of the Crocker Donovan rematch in Windsor Park. Like I guess that's a big selling point for a lot of them. But he said he'll fight Rudy, he'll fight Myles, he'll fight Paul and he'll fight any of them. Yeah. That's his ticket to that card, and that's the sort of opportunities people want. They want the big cards.
That's probably the way the promoters will look at it as well. We all know that Matty brings, and for a show like that, he's going to bring 300 people down from Gaughran.
He said to me 500.
Yeah, it probably would for a show like that, because it's the show that everybody wants to see again, because of the way it ended and how good the fight was the first time. Rudy sold 318 or 326 for that last one when he beat Jared Hughes. So it's an attractive one for a promoter to have 500, 600, 700 plus tickets on an undercard fight. If we could get it for the right one, well, who knows, but we've gotten to the stage now with some of the lads that we are attractive to these bigger promoters, and when I say bigger promoters, you look at what Jay's doing next week. I know he hasn't announced what his broadcaster is, but that's a big one. Paddy's had his first show here tonight, and I think it was a bloody brilliant show, Jamie's still putting on shows, so we work well with them. So, the sky's still the limit, and I'm looking forward to it.
Speaking of obviously another potential sort of fight, I haven't got to speak to James Freeman, but obviously there's sort of been the talk of potentially him and Glenn sort of fighting, and I know Glenn fights for the super welterweight Tulloch belt next week. Like, is that a sort of fight that can be made? Could be another one that potentially could be made for that Windsor card as well, or like where does the sort of lay of the land go with James? I know he wasn't happy with his performance tonight, but that's 6 rounds done for the first time as a pro as a good plus point. Yeah, and
Nathan Darby's an extremely talented journeyman. He could have been a prospect, he just couldn't have been arsed doing tickets. He's so light on his feet, and I spoke to him after, and James spoke to him after. I think it was somewhere in the middle of the fight that James hurt him to the body with a big right hand. Darby said, I'm not having any of this anymore. So he went a bit on his bike, and his footwork was so good that he was just elusive, and James really couldn't showcase what he could do for those last from 4, 5 and 6 on, but just because Darby was he probably has fights booked next week, the week after, and he was just like, I'm not getting involved in this. But naturally very talented, and James is eligible now. Glenn fights obviously for the super welter. James is a welter, so I know Jay has said the whole time that when it gets down to proper big domestic fights, that Glenn will be a welter. So, that's what we'd like. If that's something for the Windsor Park card, we're ready for it.
It's a dangling card for everybody, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
2 debutants obviously in the card tonight, obviously Tomas McCann and Cathal Jennings, and I thought probably in some ways maybe Tomas obviously maybe tired towards the end of his fight. He put a lot of pressure and strained himself over the first 3 rounds, and I thought Cathal obviously banked a very good 4 rounds and showed he was cool, calm and collected throughout. Yeah, Tomas he seemed really relaxed on the way in, and he did, like you said, he did put a lot into the fight. And Owen Durnan is another one of these extremely tough journeymen who was a prospect at the start and was the same kind of crack. He just didn't want to do the tickets, and I think that after he had lost the first 3, he said, do you know what, I'm having a fucking go here. So he came right out in the 4th, and he kind of put it on Tomas, but they're never really in trouble. But I think all of the nervous energy and everything that came with it, probably had his hands down a little bit low at times, but he cracked Durnan after about 10 seconds with a little short right hand, and I think Durnan went, that won't be happening again. So I was really happy with him for 3 rounds, probably lost a little bit of energy in the 4th, and when Durnan put it on him, but it's a debut against a really good journeyman, not one who you would probably put in for a debut if he comes to has a go, he took a draw off someone a few weeks ago over in the UK, so very happy. And Durnan said that when he was talking to him after, he was saying that no one hurts me to the body, but you caught me once or twice in the first couple of rounds, and you actually hurt me to the body, so just stick at it, keep with it. And Tomas and they were kind of a bit like, no. I was like, you've just won your debut. The main thing was to get in and win the fight. So I'm delighted with him. The show's coming up again soon. He'll be out quick enough. He did 70 odd tickets on his debut on a small hall show.
So we'll do the same thing. We'll probably give him a different look of an opponent and let him kind of work on things. But very happy with him and extremely happy with Cathal. Cathal was brilliant. He boxed perfectly to instructions. They looked to set up the left hook to the body, and I think he found a home for it. Jesus, I don't know how many times. Stephen Wallace was really tough and tried to make a go of it as much as he could. Good tough man who'll earn plenty of money on the road himself. But I don't think Cathal could be any happier. I don't think Dan could be any happier. I couldn't be any happier with it. It was just, perfect 4 rounds. He brought 90-something people here from Barcroft. You could hear the noise that they made at the end. So I think he's probably one we'll get out quick enough again. He had a long camp. We'll give him a week or 2 off, but if there's something coming up around June time, that's ideal for him. He's obviously attractive for a promoter when he's doing 100 tickets. He had done 100 tickets for the first show that got cancelled. He'd done another 100-ish for today. So, I don't know if you watched it, but I was really happy with how calm he stayed, and he didn't gas at all, which is, from most people, you tend to use all that nervous energy in your debut. God, just stayed really calm. Even when Wallace would catch him, I think he dropped that right hand once or twice, but just went, no. And didn't get giddy, didn't get overexcited, stuck to the game plan, boxed to instructions, and got a shutout win. So that's all he really could have wanted.
Finally, obviously, Conor Kerr getting back to winning ways, obviously it's been a tough time for him. He sort of said that he's using that experience of the Reddy fights, obviously Celtic and Irish titles, probably came too early in his professional career, but now he's back to sort of normal weight. He had a really, really tough fight tonight, probably just about nicked the fight, but that's the sort of fights he wants, I guess. He wants someone who's going to test him so that he can see where he has to improve on his proper weight as well. I think he's complaining about the heat.
Very warm
of the day. Everybody's sort of complaining about it tonight, but happy to have him back to winning ways as well.
Yeah, big time, because he would have taken a big hit to his confidence. He would have fancied himself for the first fight, and he would have fancied himself in the rematch, and he didn't get the result he wanted. So brought him back in, up to feather, and it was just 4 rounds. But quite quickly, it became clear that Eric Omar Lopez, who has fought for a WBA interim world title, came to have a go, and he got a draw against a fella who was 10-0-1, I think, last week. So as soon as he started winging in them hooks, it was kind of like, okay, you need to box and move. And there was probably a couple of times that Conor held his feet and got into it a little bit more, but there was 3 or 4 times when Dan would let it roar and it would switch and go, and Conor would switch, and he let 5 or 6 go and looked really well. He probably shipped the second round. Lopez really came swinging, and you could see that Lopez was just kind of, let's go. I think Conor maybe hurt him a little tiny bit in the first, and Lopez, well, do you know what? If you want to have a right go, we'll have a right go. And he's not the kind of fella you want to have a right go with. So after 3 rounds, it was a case of make sure you at least get a 10-10 in the 4th round. And that's what he did. I think that for a comeback fight, those 4 rounds are going to be so much more valuable than if we had to put him in against your run-of-the-mill fella who just kind of came to survive. Because Conor had those 2 or 3 fights before he fought really the first time that he probably didn't learn that much from. He would have learned a ton there tonight. And, I think this is perfect. He'll go up to 6 probably again next time. Feather is there. There's probably not as much options in and around feather than there would be at bantam, because he's kind of maybe a little bit behind the line now at bantam. But I know you're speaking to Theo about League Ormley. He's up to super feather and fight League Ormley for the title. They're both eligible, but I think Theo's first in line for that. But overall, very happy with Conor, because it took a lot of balls to get in against an opponent like that and actually have a right crack at him, So, see you, Terry. Terry Smith, Rudy's Irish title winning coach there.
Can't get out the door.
Can't get out the door. You're trying to champion, but can't open the door. No, but yeah, really happy with Conor, because, as I said, we could have just stuck him in with any run of the mill, but he wanted to come back in and actually have a test, because that's what he's had the last 2. He didn't want to go taking a right step back and doing his tickets to not learn anything. So we learned an awful lot about himself there tonight, because he took some bombs and he never wilted. So really happy overall,
Any other news coming up? Any signings coming up? Any fight news sort of coming for anybody?
There's 1 or 2 signings that are in the kind of application stroke medical phase, so I don't really ever touch them, because
until the sign sealed and delivered.
Well, just until medical's done, because no point giving a name out or a couple of names out and saying, oh yeah, he's doing his medicals, and then all of a sudden something's a problem with medicals, and say, oh, what's ever happened to you? What's wrong with your brain? You know.
Yeah.
So, but there are one or two exciting ones, and obviously very much looking forward. Very much looking forward to Graham and Dave. Graham obviously fights Darren Johnson in Scotland next month. He's flying, and really excited for that. Same day, I think, as Celtic lift the trophy over in Glasgow, so there's a good crowd going over. Probably be loud and drunk, but that's okay. And Dave fights Kyle Boyd in June. Excellent fight. You know, Dave's unbeaten, BOI Celtic champion. Now he's got the option or the opportunity to fight for the British Celtic, and it's kind of where we wanted to be. We wanted to move to 10. The Irish title kind of didn't happen. We were scheduled in, but obviously when things changed and things got moved around, it got back to being Senan versus Deco for the Irish welterweight. It's the welterweight, yeah. That would still be one we would love, but it's not a bad consolation to be fighting Kyle Boyd for the British Celtic, and all going well, if we win that, we look at, you know, bigger options. You saw Tiernan Bradley last night fighting for an IBF European. Dave can win a British Celtic. That could be a route we could look down. You know, there's options there, and when it's not on a Friday night, Dave brings a good crowd, so he's attracted to promoters. He's unbeaten, and he's done his rounds, and you know, like his nickname, he's a machine. He's an entertaining fighter. He comes forward. He likes to bring it. So very much looking forward to them 2 title fights. Aside from that, I don't think there's anything booked in, but we're going to talk about the likes of Rudy and all that kind of stuff over the course of the summer. So yeah, it's an exciting time.
Celtic champions, BUA Celtic champions, an Irish champion. Now you're moving your stages to the British Boxing Board Celtic titles, yeah. And obviously then you're talking in Commonwealth titles as well. So you're branching up this Celtic cabinet. That
little bit of progression every time, because we've put the hard yards in. You know, it's been a few years. It was nice to get the couple of Celtics. It was really nice that Rudy won his Irish, and now it's great that we're kind of getting those opportunities, because the stable has grown into what it is. You know, and for that to be recognised, because there's an awful lot of work goes into it. People, you're just a manager. It's an awful lot of work, especially when you have so many. You're kind of constantly on the phone. You're constantly talking and advising and all that. But to put all that work in, to start seeing the rewards, you know, it just makes it worthwhile.
Well, look, it's great to get a good catch up. Obviously, great to see you obviously looking so well. Keep up the great work. We know you have the drive back to Dublin tonight. I have the drive from Dublin back to Belfast next week, so I have to do what you have to do. But I'm sure we'll catch up with you in Dublin next week.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Thanks very much.
Cheers, Ian. Thank you.